Good evening, heroes and heroines, and welcome to Practising Programming in C, where we're going to do a little bit more stuff on Cinera. Something that I sort of wonder about here is this URL buffer. So the URL buffer, just like to straighten this out before we go any further. It's being used in the constructor resolved asset URL functions. It's been passed to those guys. And it seems like after each time we use that, we declaim the buffer. Right. Keeping the URL, keeping the buffer itself, obviously like kind of, it's obviously always initialized up there. But there seems to be this pattern of construct resolved asset URL, use the actual URL, and then declaim it. So that seems to be going on. It goes on and on. And then down here, we use it here, but there's a note here that since the declaim buffer URL happens later after script declaim, because the script was only claimed here, right? And the script claiming is right here. So basically, what happens is you've got like the main arena, and you claim buffers out of it, and claiming buffers basically means take the arena and just say that the next available portion of the arena is belonging to us, basically. Whenever you declaim the buffer, you actually, all you do is you say that area of the buffer is that area of the arena is now available to other people to use. So basically what would happen is throughout all of these procedures up here, well, let's just actually see what this guy's doing. Yeah, okay, so this guy claims the buffer. And then rewinds it. For some reason. I mean, it does seem like a bit of a mess, actually, but probably should straighten it out at some point. So that guy does claim it. So what would happen is, at this point we declaim the URL buffer. And then here we claim the buffer for the script. So some area of the arena is going to be allocated for the script. Well, actually, this guy here claims for the URL. So the URL is going to be positioned somewhere in the arena. And then we're going to have this area in the arena dedicated for the script. And that's going to sit there like that, which essentially means that we can't really use that URL buffer again. Like, we can't claim that buffer again, if you know what I mean. Until after we have declaimed the filter, which means, if you can see, that we're actually going to be, we claim the URL buffer up here, and then we claim it again right here before having declaimed it. I don't think we use the URL buffer again, do we? So I don't know, dude. It just seems like a bit of a hatchet job, really. And I wonder if, rather than using, I guess another part of the puzzle is that the URL is going to be, it requires a different amount of sort of space each time. Well, no, it's not. Ah, that's interesting. It's only using the max URL length plus 1 plus the max relative asset location length plus 1, so that's always going to be the same. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to change this so that we're going to use the same area of the buffer. So we're going to claim the URL buffer straight up at the start. So basically, yeah, I'm going to have to go through all of these guys, aren't I? Why am I timesing by 2 exactly? Max root URL length plus 1 plus the max relative asset location length plus 1. I don't know, dude. That ain't really appropriate, I don't think. I mean, that times 2 is just bullshit, really. I don't know. Let's leave that to do its thing. It's just a bit troubling. Like, this guy itself is doing a make string, right? Right, so it's going to main memory anyway. Yeah, I don't know. I suppose let's just leave that happening how it's happening. But make sure that this actually does do the declaiming. Right. And rather than making the script be a claim buffer and copy into this thing, let's make it be an actual make string. Right. Was that being used? Yeah, it's never used again. Sorry, script. Or what is it? Did we call them? Didn't we call them something like a resizable buffer? Right, open node in social. Ah, yeah, we don't call it anything different, do we? So where we actually do the asset landmark, let's just append string to buffer. Image source is effectively this, isn't it? I think. That's all of the stuff to do with doing that image tag. Right. Oh, copies into buffer. So we've already got the asset, we've already constructed that resolved asset URL. So we don't need to do that. We just need to append the actual string, don't we? Oh right, that's up there already, isn't it? Yeah, it is. So we're literally just appending the string to the buffer. It's just it's the same thing as the URL location. What does 0 mean again? I think that means it's a global buffer, doesn't it? Global buffer, yeah, and it is a global buffer. So we do need to say it's true. To include search. Is that not an global buffer though? Oh, it's not actually currently. Yeah, it's not, because we're rewinding that guy. That seems better to me. Then we don't need to do claim buffer, we don't need to do this. Player URL, where's that being used exactly? Don't think that is being used in this function, is it? And it won't be because the player URL, well, actually, is the player URL only being used? It's probably being used inside that recursive function, isn't it? Wherever that is. Gosh, where is that? This guy. Per location. Yeah, there we go. The player URL is being used in here. That base file name length, I don't think... Or did we determine that that was fine? to use. Alright, so we make those guys match. Where exactly is the database entry? Oh, it's DB entry 5, is it? Is that what we're up to now? There we go. That'll be more correct, kind of. Yeah, like I said, that doesn't need to happen at all. It's not appropriate. Oh, there's a closed node. You actually need to close the script node. Not sure if we have that type of node. And then we don't need to decrement the indentation level because closed node will actually decrement the indentation level for us. Now we've got a plus indentation level. I think we actually want to stick that with us there, maybe. I'm not exactly sure. Because now that we're using the open node functions, that might not have to happen. Let's see what this produces. That's pretty identical to me. If we instead do the indentation level where it used to be, what are we talking about here actually? All we're talking about, where's the script? The script is there. I see. So it seems like we want to put that div on a new line, or the body on a new line rather. Ah, right. So this guy now doesn't know about the actual sort of the need to paginate it, basically. Yeah, because here we go. This guy was putting the script down there. So let's say that this guy does the new line. Really, it should be able to properly indent it, but we don't really flow it through. A couple of things we changed there with the indentation. We were previously plus plus in the indentation level before doing this. I suppose we should really keep one of these open, shouldn't we? So we can actually compare it. Yeah, okay. So it seems like you do need to plus plus that indentation for producing that stuff. Yeah, that looks bang on to me. Everybody seems to be indented correctly, I think. Yeah. So that straightened that up a little bit. Let's check the offset landmarks actually. Yeah, we changed how that was indented. But this is actually correctly updated that landmark there. And let's also just double check that it's actually this one we need to check. So let's change what the script is actually getting produced. Built-in asset, yeah, it's just this, isn't it? If you just say, well, it's where the filter was, wasn't it? Oh, actually, hang on a minute. No, this is already correct because we're talking about the JS search in here, and it was this that we changed. Right, we did nothing about the actual where we put the filter image. We're putting that into the main buffer. Yeah, we didn't change this. So yeah, I think we're fine. I think while we're in the mood though, it might be nice just to change some of these dudes. You know, the open node functions. I think it'd be nice if we just make these guys actually open up the nodes. And let's just, we don't need to make it particularly fancy. We can just say, just output the opening, you know, the less than sign, and the word, and then a space. I think that should suffice. Oh, hang on a second. We need to do the new line, then indent, then we do the stuff. That seems right to me. Oh. Interesting. So, in this case, open node new line, it's like a complete node. sadly. Very, very similar. Yeah, a lot of these are doing quite similar stuff actually, aren't they? This guy, by contrast, is like a open node complete. And this thing does these guys. Does that make sense? I think we don't have a node image. Yeah. Um, Yeah. It's not a complete one. Oops. Obviously, if you're going to do this a bit nicer, you would make it sort of, you'd make these guys take a variable number of things, so you can actually do the entire node in one call. But yeah, that seems to be exactly the same. Also, I might just change the name of the closed node or the open node. New line C. I might change that to be open node C new line. Just to say there was we're talking about the open node. We're saying open node. It's the completeness is talking about is applied to the open node part of it. Yeah, that's more like what I want. Sadly, the closed node new line, I don't think it can be exactly sort of we can't make this guy call this. I don't think. Because it has to decrement the indentation level before indenting. Or rather, it needs to indent before appending the strings. Wait. Yeah, it's because the indentation happens before the other stuff, basically. In the case of opening node, you write the stuff in and then you can indent afterwards, but in the case of the closed node, you actually have to sort out the indentation first before you can indent it. Alright. And in both cases you need to decrement the indent. Another thing you could do also is to say open an image node, couldn't you? Yeah, I guess they got multiple things on. They can take an alt. Yeah, they can take a few attributes. So yeah, I guess you'd have to make the open nodes take all those attributes, and then they can set them as you want them. I guess if you've got to do that. Hang on a second. Oh yeah, I did go through all of them, didn't I? So I would have gone into generate filter. Yeah, open a new line. So I did update those guys. Now, a further thing that I was thinking of is that you could actually make the opening nodes actually kind of automatically close. Basically, how you do that would be like you push the guides onto a tree, and each time you sort of want to add somebody else. So, I mean, it's basically the same as how it happens in JavaScript, really. But basically, if you want to add a node to the body, you just sort of say that the body is the parent of the next node down, and then you add the parent, the other child to that, and you basically add children to you build up the actual hierarchy, but you only need to build it up like in one way. You don't need to say which person closes who, because that just gets, when you go through to actually produce the output, as you come to the end of a child, you just like close its parents effectively. So let's just check notes. Let's do the style first. That'll be a piece of cake. Let's do the style so we at least get hero looking correct. It's currently garbage. $21. Let's see if I can. Perfect. So all I want to do Cinera index project. I need to change that to be just Cinera index. Okay. I need to change and then Cinera index control project. I need to add it to the one with Cinera index control. Hover. So we need to add. I think. Was I also thinking it was also wherever I see Cinera index control, I just need to add the Cinera filter project. I think that was the thing, wasn't it? We assume that that's necessary. Cinera filter project off. Right, yeah. clearly we need to style this guy. I think we use the lighter version, don't we? I think that's all it is. So for both of these dudes, bold and small. And the colour. It needs to be this every, whatever it is for every second one. This thing. Oh, that's the buff before. So is it just this one actually? Where do I want to put this? Results. Yeah, I think that's what we want. What's going on here? Oh, right, yeah. So I guess we also want to say that the background of this div also gets the same colour, don't we? Now if we do that, does that just not mean that we don't need to do this? Yeah, it does. So it'll cascade down. Okay. So let's just apply that to the risky person. Yeah, it was the project's name, wasn't it? Or title. This won't make any difference to the appearance of it because I think it's the same colours anyway. So now let's do the same deal with Bitwise. Add with handmade dev show. Definitely need to do a generator for this thing. It's got to be a priority. So the index goes below, are we? What was that just listened to, by the way? The Unknown Consequence. It's very chilled out. Oh, yeah, we also need to actually change all that stuff over, don't we? think that should go with the filter off, actually. That'd be more appropriate. So I'm going to do that. And then wherever we see Cinera index dot bitwise, we need to change that to be just Cinera index. We need to say that Cinera I think that's it. Alright, that looks good enough to me. So now the final one is Handmade Dev Show. Yeah, that does still exist. So actually, let's just do it in the order that we've always done it. Index control. Do we have anything for Hammer Dev? So, oh shit, we don't have anything like that. Cinera index. Ah, okay. So it seems like we just need to do that. We need to add this for everything. Let's just include Abner's thing. Let's see what we call it. Chats. Just having a chat. So we've got Yeah, I mean, you can kind of see there's no styling on any of this lot. And this doesn't know about numbering schemes. So I guess we just copy this stuff over, you know, wherever we see Cinera index control. Just copy those over to where we assume they kind of should go and hope for the best. Query container. Ah. Okay. Let's just do a blanket change of that straight away. I think I'd like to put the index control first, really, but basically because the control is the guy up here, whereas the results are the things down here. I wonder if we've missed some stuff out actually. Cinera index. This thing. Well, maybe not. That still exists already. So, yeah. Cinera results is sometimes a class and it's sometimes a thing. What exactly is it? It's an ID. So we need to go back, fix that up. So that was presumably this guy, colour. Now Cinera index project. Let's just take a quick gander through these guys just to make sure they've got everyone. Where's this exactly? So that's there. I think this is garbage. So I'm going to delete it. But the bit we're missing is this guy apparently. Yes, we are. Now this Cinera default medium indicator, shouldn't that actually have some... specific thing just for these guys? I don't know. So here we go, this guy has got 2 down here, but we've only got 1. And that index sort again. So we're still missing, I think we're missing some style in here, aren't we? Don't think we intend that to be that colour. Yeah, is that old news, maybe? Sometimes it's old news, but sometimes it's not. Here appears. No, that one corresponds with this. That might be it, actually. Yeah. Now we've got something here, haven't we? Cinera content and Cinera category medium. Episode marker. So let's just add that. Again, we're missing this category medium. Okay, everything looks okay to me there. Yeah, that was wrong. Okay, I think that looks alright. There was that thing, wasn't there? The Cinera results. Or was it Cinera? Was it Cinera results or Cinera index? I've got a feeling it's Cinera index. Okay. I think everything looks relatively reasonable now. Oh, what's happening there? Oh, that. Now this is what we're talking about now. Right. Sorting is really quick for Handmade Hero. I suppose one thing we could do is give each project a little bit of margin. Wait, it's this as well. Oh, that's fuck all. I think. There we go. Then we can at least sort of see the delineation of these guys. Now that they haven't got any margin. Probably not this, is it? No. Yeah, I guess because the Cinera index product itself has the background, so yes, we can add that thing, but you're not going to be able to see it. If you go like that, you end up in a situation where it looks like this though. Which just looks a bit naff, I think. Unless... rather than putting the project itself, what if we just pad the title? Wherever it is. Yeah, you can't get the full effect, can you? maybe that's fine. But I guess we'd have a bit of a better idea looking at risky, because that's got some actual real stuff, wherever that goes. Not sure where I put it. So this is the hero. Okay, so what we used to have this as risky. I suppose it's tougher to tell with this guy because we don't actually have a background colour. What was that change that we made here? Right, it's the background colour, not for the project, but just for the index project title, the Cinera project title. Right, that's what we're talking about. Cinera index project. So the second Cinera index project, we just changed that to be Cinera project title. That does have some background colour, so let's take a look at bitwise. Although there's only one of bitwise, so it's not going to be super instructive as to what's going on there. And this again, it's a white one. So we're not really going to see it. But I think you can sort of see there's a bit of margin above 2019. So yeah, let's say that that's fine. And that's just how it goes. Then you at least have a little bit of a chance at seeing some delineation between the projects. So let's go on to the next thing. Yeah, I mean, I suppose we should actually, because I've got OPBG as well, and sysadmin actually. Oh. How up to date is this guy? Yeah, I have no idea how up to date it is. It's kind of funny that these guys are only 200 and odd lines, right? So that's 73 lines there. Right, it's like 1, 2, 3 and a bit pages long, but they're just a source of frustration. Let's try and get them up to date. Right, let's at least get it a little bit up to date. And then when we actually want to be using these, they should be at least a little bit closer to usable. So this thing has got nothing to do with the index control. Oh, update the Cinera query container and Cinera index sort classes, preventing them with Cinera into control. Ah. Is that true? Is that what you need to do? So this happened, we see this 3 times. There's another one that we're missing, but let's try and get this a little bit closer. Where's the third one? It's on hover. Oh, I don't know, dude. What I'm basically thinking is, screw it. Right. I think it's screw it and just wait until we've got a proper generator for it. Because I don't think we've got anything like to do with the results, have we? Well, we've got some results there. We've got some border colours, background colours. So it's the marker list hover, is what we're trying to see. Yeah, but there's nothing to do with the marker list hover. Where was it? It's coming down in focus, wasn't it? This thing here. Let's just throw it in. So those were the three things for the something, wasn't it? It's an index sort. It's 1, 2, 3 things. We have 1, 2, 3 things. So this one we just change it so it's in its control first. Actually, probably need to save this so I know to do it in the ABVG one. So there's 1, 2, 3 of those, and I can see that I can see the 3. Let's just do all the Cinera index controls first, and then go back and do the Cinera index projects. And we also needed to change, didn't we, on the notes? Jesus Christ. Cinera index projects. So empty here. Yeah, we're missing this one. That's what I've always been experiencing. And then that's it. Yeah. So now that we've done those, let's go back through and mop up the Cinera index projects. Okay, so I think we got everyone. I think that's everything. So finally, do we have a OPPG? Don't seem to be able to find that file. It's going to be somewhere, isn't it? So it used to be in HTML to HTML /Cinera. Let's go OPPG. Okay, so it's still in the HTML to HTML directory, apparently. This is actually pointing to somewhere else, isn't it? So I reckon we just need to link that guy into this directory. Ah. go, there's a OBBG. Now, yeah, OBBG is completely different. Like, it uses a completely old... Yeah, it's completely out of date. I think this one is just going to be too tough to do at the moment. I think we need to do a full-on redo of that guy. Okay, but at least we've got these guys still looking kind of half reasonable. Now, the thing that Asaf pointed out the other day, the sorting works fine for these guys. We're currently doing it by just changing the flex flow order. You can sort the flex boxes by column and by column reverse, which works fine for risky business in both this view and, well, I mean, that you sort of saw it actually. What was I doing? Oh, it's still performing the search. Now, you can see that this is kind of reasonable. It's fast enough. We've got a query in and we're sorting with the query. If, however, you're on Handmade Hero, let's just sort of old to new, so you can't... Well, I mean, I could sort it new to old actually, so you can see the search results flying in. Although, I'm interested to see, it's going to actually, there's some more stuff going on in here. So Handmade Hero should come before chat, right? Well, even... Again, this is still a product of the whole thing being garbage. I think if I've got to get everyone toggled off, you now see code or flagging. So basically, here is searching through a form. Now if we sort it, that took quite a while to actually do the sort from after clicking. But now if you go to new to old, we see that it takes, well, yeah, it's just taking a while. Yeah, it's just too sluggish. And also, I mean, I'm not sure if we can do anything about this actually, this situation, when it's performing a new search, because it's still got to search it in the order that we give it the stuff. It's, as I was saying the other day, I think it's tough to make it to do the actual search in reverse because the data isn't really set up to do that. So I suppose for this case we've just got to suck it up and just sort of say when it performs a new search, it's just unfortunately going to be like this. You know, I think that's the case anyway. I mean, we'll see actually. Maybe the actual sorting maybe the search itself isn't too bad, and it's just simply the like the laying out of it is the problem. I'm not sure, but we could improve this thing here by effectively rendering it ourselves. So just rendering it in reverse. So we will see, like, basically when you click it, it clears the thing and it starts to draw the guys from in reverse order of the episodes. So there's that aspect of it. But another aspect of this, which might have been a bit hidden, or, well, I mean, it was kind of sort of there. If I toggle on handmade chat, well, you do see that coming up at the top. Yeah, right, you see it coming up at the top. Handmade Slaney also goes at the top. Handmade Ray, yeah, same deal. All of those guys should actually be appearing after Handmade Hero, but they don't. The reason being that it takes so long to actually pass Handmade Hero in. So we can't actually do what we're doing now, which is just stuffing everyone onto the same array. I think we're going to need to have a different array for each product, right? And then the render results function actually goes through each array individually. I think that's what we'll need to do. How long are we going though? We're going for 2 hours. Do I want to embark on that now, or do I want to just call it? We haven't done an awful lot today, really. We've cleaned up this a bit, and we've done the style. The style was pretty arduous to do. Yeah, I don't know. I'll tell you one thing that could be kind of nice, right? These nodes, just so I've done a little bit more kind of sexy cleanup. The ID value must contain at least one character and must not contain white space. Yeah, it can only have one unique ID. Sorry, can only have one unique ID that belongs to that single element, while a class name can be used by multiple elements. Wait a minute. that isn't telling us the same. They're talking about different things here, aren't they? Right? What I'm trying to see is, can an element contain multiple IDs in the same way that it can contain multiple classes? What this is saying here, an HTML element can only have one unique ID that belongs to that single element. But then it goes on to say, while a class name can be used by multiple elements, it should really sort of say an HTML element can only have one unique ID that belongs to that single element. An HTML element can have multiple classes, each of which may be used by multiple elements. Right? That's really what you want it to be saying here. But I think finally it's getting the information that I'm actually after, which is that it can only have one unique ID. Right. Which basically is what I'm basically driving at, is making the open node new line function take the ID. Right, so it's taking one of them. And if it's taking an ID, then it actually adds that ID. So let's make it do that, and then let's call it a day. I suppose for a little bit more correctness, rather than doing the space there, I would do the space like outside the loop, outside the if. I know that sounds a bit sort of obsessive. But I think that would be a better way of doing it. Right, because then you can basically do this in both ways. It's the same thing in both situations. Whoa. So I assume that's supposed to be, yeah, div with nothing. This one. Right, and then because this guy actually closes the thing, just go like that. So with a bit of luck, that won't produce anything different. Blimey. You ever just look at someone else's secret and realise you have to be doing something wrong because your functions don't look nearly as clear as anyone else's. Yeah, kind of do actually, yeah. I mean, Casey's code does look clear. I mean, I can sort of say that about my own stuff actually. Like this function here, I think is looking a bit more clear as to what's going on. I think. Maybe not. I mean, it's a bit of I mean, there's two ways of looking at it. It's like it's less clear in terms of what it's actually ending up producing, because you don't actually see, like, you know, you're not seeing this structure in here, are you? All you're seeing is a bunch of functions. Whereas if you look down in somewhere else, like if you look in here, like you do see the actual structure of the little dudes. You see that there's indentation. So yeah, there's stuff like that. But yeah, then you've got kind of all sorts of bits of garbage all over the place, really. I think insert entry is insert entry in DB, is that one of the things that's a bit of a nightmare? Yeah, I mean, you've got this kind of stuff where it's setting up this and it's doing an if this, and then like if n this is equal to -1, like what's that supposed to mean exactly? Yeah, what is that supposed to mean? If we've got an end this. Yeah, like sort of see, like, I don't always know like what's going on at a glance. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, what I'd say is I'm not a fast programmer. Definitely not. And I don't really think I don't feel like I'm like cost effective yet. I still don't feel like I could like say to someone, hire me as a programmer and you'll get like a bunch of good stuff coming out of me in a timely fashion. I don't think I can say that quite yet. But like, I don't know, I sort of feel like programming is like the process of basically figuring out how to make something work, kind of. Like taking something that doesn't really do anything and making it do something. And in the process, like, kind of coming to understand what that system actually is. Because it's kind of easy to say, here you go. It's kind of easy for somebody to say to somebody else, can you just make me a parser? Or can you just make me a website generator? Or can you make me a ray tracer? Can you make me a game? Can you make a ball bounce along the screen? It's easy to sort of say that thing, isn't it? And it's kind of easy to also receive that instruction. But when you come down to actually doing it, like, you need to actually figure out how to actually go about it, don't you? And I think that programming is just that process. It's just that process of figuring out and kind of changing your understanding from one which is like this kind of high level, kind of easily received instruction, easily understandable instruction. Change your understanding from that to one which actually understands like how the whole thing works. And if you understand programming as that, as opposed to being like quickly churning out stuff, you're then talking about, do you have the capacity to like change your understanding, and like, you know, not be stuck in a current understanding and trying to mold like trying to fit like the other things, trying to basically fit the programming into your current understanding. If you're not trying to do that and you're instead trying to get your understanding into the situation where you can actually kind of understand the system that's needing to be made a bit better. You know, if you have that capacity, then I think that kind of that is more an indication of whether you're a good programmer. And from that perspective, I kind of think that I sort of do have that capacity to change my understanding and come to different understandings. Yeah, just develop my understanding and not be stuck with my current understanding. I think I kind of sort of do have that capacity. You feel like you can't get a handful of systems that you 100% to be able to work with each other. Interesting. So they work individually, I assume. So the things work individually, but you can't get them to work with each other. I think in those cases, I think I have heard Casey talk about this kind of thing, and basically what you're talking about is getting like the boundary between systems well defined, I think. So yeah, what systems do I have? I mean, you could sort of argue that I've got the config file, the config parser part of the procedure happening. Like you can kind of run the config, you can run the config parser independently of the rest of the program. The rest of the program actually can't really run without the config anymore, because it just kind of depends on it, sort of. Although I mean, it does check if it's even got a config. Right, it checks right here. So if you don't have a config, then it doesn't do anything, I don't think. Yeah, it basically does nothing. So you can kind of argue that we've got this config parsing part of the routine. And the way that I've managed to get that working with the outer thing, I mean, you can kind of see that it's just returning literally a config, and then you just go from there. Where does that get initialized? Oh yeah, the config is actually global. Yeah, we initialize that out here. And then the switching between configs, actually, because within the config you've got multiple projects, and you need to know, like when you modify a file, so like you modify this file, or you just save it, it needs to know that it's talking about hero code. Similarly, if you modify risky, it needs to know that it's talking about risky. And the way they've done that is just by having this kind of it's just a config, it's a common project pointer. So that's just there, and like whenever you need to switch the thing, it just switches that thing. If that makes sense. Set common project, yeah. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if that really counts as multiple systems working with each other. With the Risky Business website, I've got like the Silken database handling the authentication, and I've got the website itself calling back to that. I think in that I basically defined quite a sort of organised way of doing it, I think. Like it's basically all, I mean, I kind of established like a server client architecture pretty early on, really. So I basically have have a silicon.h file, which is a thing that the website client program can include, and that's the thing that just contains the functions that the client can call. And yeah, it kind of all goes through. I kind of made sure that I always went through the actual server side of it. So if I wanted to change, if I wanted to make something, if I wanted to change something in the website generator side, I would first of all sort of think, well, is this something that is more appropriately handled by the other person, and should I actually kind of enforce something from the other person's side, if you know what I mean? So I guess, yeah, I guess it's kind of, it's figuring out like who's responsible for a particular thing, and just make sure that that person is kind of just honoured as the person who does have the responsibility for it. What sort of systems are you talking about, by the way? I mean, you're way kind of ahead of me in terms of what you're actually programming, aren't you? At least I think you are. Yeah, your text editor. Start over 6 times. So in a text editor, right? I haven't done one myself over the course since I made Hero. So yeah, I haven't done one. But if you're doing a graphical one, you've got to have like the guy who does the actual kind of drawing the actual pixels to the screen. You've got to have the thing that takes input. You've got to have the laying out stuff, which you were talking about earlier, wasn't it? With the like the tiling, getting the fonts. I seem to remember seeing Alan talking about his thing, vocoder, obviously. Actually editing. I remember him talking about the undo system. So that's another part, isn't it? You've got the undo. You'll have your config as well, don't you? Because you've got you do hot reloading of your config. So you're basically juggling all these things, aren't you? Because you don't need to be part of editing. Yeah. Yeah, I suppose like if you've got all these different things. So clearly, the UI, right, the laying out of the thing is going to be talking to the renderer, right? The renderer is the thing that's actually responsible for putting the actual pixels on the screen, isn't it? And the UI is responsible for saying that you want, like, it's like the kind of more overarching sort of thing, isn't it? So you don't want the UI to be talking about pixels. You want the UI to be talking in terms of like functions that the renderer provides, don't you? Getting fonts is loading it, isn't it? But then actually rendering the actual fonts, you want to be, yeah, I mean, actually, the actual editing, I guess. You would want to be talking, you wouldn't want to be talking in terms of like curves, would you? Like glyph curves. You wouldn't want to be talking about that. You want to be just talking about you hit the A key and you get the A character or whatever. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if any of that is, I don't know if any of that is even correct, really. What I've just kind of said. Um, but basically, I think generally I'd just be sort of thinking like, who is supposed who should be responsible for these sorts of things, and what sort of language does this other person want to be talking in? Do you know what I mean? Like, for example, here, I only want to be saying parse config. I don't want to care about, like, anything. You know, out here, I just don't give a shit, like, about any of it. I mean, I guess, like, even the type specs. Like, why am I even caring about the type specs, actually, for that matter? Because I don't think anyone else uses it. Do they? Like, why is that? Why is that a thing? Yeah, why is that a thing? Actually. Because literally nobody here needs to care about that. And you only need to know the type specs. Could be wrong, but pretty reasonably sure that doesn't need to bother with that. Like, who cares? I think that's worked. So do you see what I mean? Like, like this guy out here didn't care about type specs. The type specking is only to do with the actual parsing. So it's only the parser that cares, that needs to know about that. Not exactly sure why I didn't do that in the first place, honestly. But I didn't. And then, like, yeah, tokenization, like, the outer guy doesn't care about that either. Resolving variables. The interface, yeah. Move TV, wow, okay. I think that's still alright, by the way. I mean, nothing crashed, so maybe it is. Yeah, I think my general thing is just like, who should be responsible for this thing, and who and what do particular people want to be talking about, really. and just try and marry those things up to get the kind of coordination kind of working in a way that kind of works for everyone, really. Yeah, I guess I don't really have enough experience really um, to draw on, really. I don't think I really have many things that have got multiple parts to them. Do I? I mean, I do have the asset hashing. Actually, I think the database stuff, I don't have that very well delineated, I don't think. Because there are cases where I just sort of say, you know, I'm kind of using these things directly, and there isn't really any like standardized like database operations, kind of. I guess I didn't really appreciate the how can I put this? So say you've got like an overriding system, and that system could be like chunked up into subsystems. Yeah, I guess I didn't really appreciate the possibility of the database being like a subsystem of the main thing, which is why you end up in a situation where you've got like you know, lots of people kind of piecemeal talking about the database, you know, going into the nitty-gritty of the actual database file handle. You know, whereas you could just say that the database is a subsystem in itself. So, I mean, maybe part of it is like, maybe part of it is just identifying what are subsystems, or what could be subsystems. And I mean, like, from the perspective of compression-oriented programming, I mean, it's kind of just like, whenever you see something happen twice, make it into a function, and then, like, I suppose when you sort of see things happening in multiple different situations, you consider that to be a subsystem, and you just sort of say that, you know, if these two things are similar enough, you just make that into its own little subsystem. You know, which is the thing that cares about all the different things that it needs to care about. Whereas the person who calls it only cares about the few things that they care about. I mean, maybe that can just apply to API kind of style or whatever. I mean, look at these. These are very similar, aren't they? Right, they're doing exactly the same thing. In fact, what is that doing? It's literally just writing the entire file out, isn't it? So you could sort of say, just cycle the file, couldn't you? I mean, isn't that cycles? Well, cycles a file. It's like a write entire file, I guess. Right, and then those guys would just do that. So yeah, the thing that you were talking about, Jesse, I know you're not here, but just for the purposes of the video, the thing that you talk about, I feel like you can't get a handful of systems to work with each other. I'm not necessarily sure that I have experienced that, but by the same token, I haven't really had many systems to have to work with each other. So yeah, but I think I'm going to call it there. 3 hours or so, yeah. We've been going for 3 hours, and we've got done, I think all we've done actually is the style, isn't it? We've only got the hammered hero style, that was the thing that we didn't have. Oh yeah, that's going to be slow as hell. We've got this style, got the bitwise style. We've also got chats in there, haven't we? Yeah. So we've got that, and also we did just do a little bit of it was kind of where is it? Where's this guy? Search the buffer. It was sort of, it wasn't really API, it was just like I don't know, helper functions, I suppose. We just sort of standardized on this thing a bit more. Now, an interesting thing about this actually, you see this open node new line for the node import? That we actually decrement the input, we decrement the indentation level. There's a couple of places where we do that. Decrementation. Maybe there's only one actually. So there's that place there as well. So that's after pushing on a, that's after opening a node for a node image. It might be worth, because I think what's happening here is that the image node is like a single node, basically. Right, it doesn't have like a closing tag. It might be worth, because I think what's going on here is it's indenting. It's always indenting. But the thing is, if it doesn't have a closing node, it doesn't need to actually indent. It doesn't need to increment the indentation level. It usually considers start doing an end tag. There we go. Now, Do they have a list of... Do they have a list of tags that don't have an end tag? Do they have that? Empty elements do not have an end tag. We had some lists of empty elements here. A start tag is not self-closing, is not an empty element tag. Oh, hang on a minute. What was that? Yeah, it might be nice to be able to say this is a self-closing tag, so don't indent it. Because it's not supposed to expect a closing tag, obviously. Is input in here? Yeah. Input and image was the other thing, wasn't it? It's required to provide XHTML, is it? I don't think I'm caring about that, am I? The image tag. Where is that? So push that as a landmark. Yeah, I'm not doing that. Let me just take a look again at that thing. Okay, so that does do that. So for a self-closing tag, yeah, this guy doesn't. These guys, they're not doing that forward slash. This is an indentation level thing. Basically, what I'm kind of suggesting is you have like which is going to have a HTML element ID. Void elements. Well, now the thing is, I want to marry up the node A okay. I want to be using this actually, I think. Don't I? I think this is more like what I actually want. No, A isn't self-closing, is it? Image is self-closing, label apparently isn't. Noise span. Yeah, I think that's it. Then, when we've got those indentation levels, because this thing actually opened it as a node image, and because node image is set to be a void thing, I think we shouldn't have to do the indentation level decrementation, because this guy won't have incremented it. Same here with the node import. Right. So let's just see if this even does anything. Yeah, it looks exactly the same. Import. Whereas if we didn't say that particular to people itself, well, look another way. If we actually let the indentation level happen, I see that I've just lost my internet connection. So I dropped some frames, but the recording should have kept it going. Oh, mind you, decrementing the indentation level could give us too many people. Well, it doesn't, fortunately. But yeah, fortunately we start off at 1, so it's never going to go lower than 1. 0 rather. But yeah, you can see that screwed those guys up now. Which is exactly as we'd expect. Yeah, there we go. I might actually say, rather than calling it void, I might call it self-closing. Singleton? I mean, yeah, I have used that actually before. So let's just go with that. So I think today basically we didn't really solve any problems as such, or get to a better understanding as to what the system needs to actually be doing. There was a little bit of a change there. What could that have been? It could have just been the script. I'll just check the video. That's the mark, which is out of date now. We don't really need that anymore. And these guys are all the same file. Yeah, all we did really was make the style. So I reckon tomorrow we can get stuck into actually making the JavaScript, rerun the search, or rather rerun the rendering of the search in reverse order when we change the sort, just to make and also to actually put the individual elements onto their individual projects. The elements or episodes? I think episodes is the actual array that we need to be talking about. Basically, so that when you do this, it'll be quicker, right? At least that's the theory. Just turn everyone off apart from Medhero. Yeah, it's just very, very slow. Whereas you don't have that slowness in Risky as much because of fewer episodes. There was another thing as well, actually, that I did kind of spot. Don't know if I mentioned it on stream, but when you filter stuff out, it doesn't change this number, which it might want to do. So, yep, let's call it there and do this stuff that I'm kind of talking about tomorrow. So thank you very much, Airs and Herons, for being here, for being square, for being fantastic, and also for being conversant, and for like being, what was the other kind of, thanks for being a handful. Yeah, I think that'll do it. Thanks for being a handful. Until next time. Farewell for now.